Okay, so we're up to Siman Ches Sif Yud Beis. So kama begodim shel kanfas. If for whatever reason a person is wearing several pairs of tzitzis, then what that means is that every time you have a beged which has got four corners, you've got a chiyuv to wear tzitzis. So what if you're putting on several items of clothing with which are chayiv and tzitzis? Well, imagine Rabbi Scheinberg, he was here many times. He wore many tzitzis. In that sort of situation, kulam chayav tzitzis. All of those begodim are chayav in tzitzis. V'im lovshim kulam b'loi hefsek. And if you put them all on at one time without any interruption, v'yadaitum etchila al kulam, and you intended to do that, lo yavarech el bracha achas. You only make one bracha. V'im mafsik b'neihem, and if there's a hefsek between putting on the various begodim, then tzarich levarech al kol achas v'achas. You've got to make a bracha on each one. V'uadin. So too, if you didn't have intention to put on the other begodim, then havik kamafsik beneim. It's as if there's a hefsek, and therefore you need to make a bracha on the later pairs that you put on. V'chein, says the Rama, in pashat harishin kodim shelovash hasheni. If you take off the first item of clothing before you put on the second one, then you need to make a new bracha. Just by the way, we'll see the details in the Mishnah Berurah, but that is applicable today, right? It's Friday, it's Erev Shabbos, so we're wearing tzitzis now. When we get changed later this afternoon and we put on, if you have a special pair of tzitzis for Shabbos, then you need to make a new bracha. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I'll tell you more. Say, for example, you go to the gym, or you exercise on Erev Shabbos, and you have a special sports pair of tzitzis. So then, unless you have in mind, and even if you have in mind, you can't be waiting for something you're going to do in 5 hours' time. So therefore, you have to make a new bracha on your gym tzitzis, and then later you get changed, you shower, and you're getting ready for Shabbos, and then you have to put on a new pair of tzitzis for Shabbos. So then you have to make a new bracha on that.
What happens if while you exercise, you take off your tzitzis because you don't want to schwitz on the tzitzis? You need to make another bracha when you put the same tzitzis on afterwards.
So we'll see now. So let's see. So we'll see. It depends how big the hefsek is. So let's do the Mishnah Berurah. The first halacha is if he puts on loads of tzitzis, he makes one bracha. So kulam chayom. Now what's the chiddush? Rotzulema im loiv sham kulam. That is if he's wearing all of them. Now the Mishnah Berurah, the Dirshu note number 35 says Tam hadova shekol habegodim shalovish mechayav tzitzis. The straightforward reason is that all the begodim he's wearing are chayiv in tzitzis. Kosev halavush shehu me'akosev v'osu lohem tzitzis al kanfei bigdeihem. Right, it's loshen rabim. Bigdeihem loshen rabim. Mashma shechayiv al kol al harbe begodim yachad, and therefore it's not just one item. Continues the Mishnah Berurah. Avol im munochim b'tevoso paturin. If, however, you've got four-cornered garments which are sitting in the drawer at home in the cupboard, then you're part of the Kaimlon tzitzis chayvus gavra v'lei chayvus mono. That's a famous debate. Is tzitzis a din in the gavra or in the chefza? We paskin it's a din in the gavra, in the person, and therefore if you've got begodim sitting in the drawer, they are not chayav in tzitzis because they're common siman yotetz. Now, then the Mechaber said, if you are mafsik b'neihem, then when you put them on at different times, sorry, you got to make a bracha for each one. It says the Mishnah Berurah in Kaf Ches, hainu behefsik godel. It's got to be a significant break. There's proper hesach hadas. But if it's a small break, if there's a small break and a person is silent, that's not considered a hefsek. But ideally it wasn't great, but that's not considered a hefsek. Even if it's a bit longer than Kadei Dibur, which we said is a few seconds. Now, what if you put on one beged and then you're putting on the other begodim and you made one bracha? So if it's a short break and you didn't speak, then it's not considered a hefsek, and therefore you don't make a sub to another bracha. But what if you talk? If the talk was for the purpose of levisha, i.e., can you pass my extra tzitzis or my jacket, which is four-cornered, because that's part of the suda. It's like pass the salt, right? There's not a hefsek. I need the salt or pass the challah knife, whatever it is. But if it was stam talking and there was no connection to the levisha, to the clothing, to getting dressed, yesh deis ben aposkim is machleikas, but das hamachaber lekam b'sif yud gimel or magen avorim v'hab men achrenim is got poskim ba'afilu sicha ba'alma gam kein have b'chal hefsek l'inin zeh. Even talking is considered the hefsek for this. Now, take a look at footnote Dusha footnote 40. What if a person, interesting case, a guy made a bracha on his first pair of tzitzis, he puts on another baguette, and by mistake, he makes a second bracha. So you got an interesting shaila here. Is that second bracha considered the hefsek? But now he's actually got to make a bracha. You hear the case? Yeah. So the ha'im nefsheres habracha hashenis kehefsek ben habracha rishonim lemaisa mitzvah. He's stopping b'zeh hagon rishonim zamen arbach le'inyan misha birech alayayin karoyu with regard to someone who made a bracha on wine. The ta'o birech birchas hayayin pam shnia. Then he made a bracha again. Ha'im birchas hachashiv nechsheves kehefsek ben bracha rishonim lemaisa. Oisha nepeches le'ikha bracha or not. But Sidde Shalom Mistabish Bracha Levatala Chishev Keika Bracha. It's not Mistabah, they're making a bracha on the tzitzis, but this is considered a hefsek. When we come off and Kimishi Mamish ain't a bracha, let's say Choshev Hefsek is not considered a hefsek. I'll give you an example where this works. We on Havdalah, on Motzi Shabbos, the way to remember the order of the brachas is Yavne. Yain, Besamim, Ner, Havdalah. You've got to be careful. This shaila came up with during COVID, because people often found out they have COVID because they couldn't smell the basomim, right? So let's say you make a bracha on wine, yain, then you make it on the basomim, and let's say you can't smell, and you start talking whatever, and then you have ner, and then you make the hamad ben kadesh l'chol, and then you drink the wine. You only drink wine at the end. Your ber hagofen is on that wine. You can't mafsi between the hagofen and the drinking of the wine. So it's a big shaila whether if you'll be mafsik, you've got to just drink straight away. So if you let's say you forgot and then you're about to drink the wine, you make a beber hagofen. It's the same shaila. Is a bracha for the thing considered the hefsek? So if you're talking about COVID and 1,000 things, then that's going to be a hefsek. If it's a bracha on the wine, is that a hefsek? So Shem Zalman is specific about it, but he says that then he says you would not have to make a bracha. It's not considered a hefsek. Okay, let's carry on. I'm at the end of towards the end of Kafches. Since you don't have to make a bracha again, you should try not to get yourself into this situation. And if you did speak, you do not make a bracha again. So it's an unusual situation because most of us don't have more than one tzitzis or talis or beged, which is 4 corner we're going to put on. But if one does, you've got to just be careful. You make the one bracha and you just put them all on without being mafsik. In note 41, he says something interesting. So just make sure you just put them on at the same time without any sort of hefsek. The kolshkein, finishing off the Mishnah Berurah Chavches, either way, be sure not to make a hefsek gadol between putting on the various clothings. The osa ligran bracha she'in etzricha, you mustn't cause a bracha she'in etzricha. Now let's just do note 42. He's got a very a good summary of the different rules regarding brachas, what's bracha she'in etzricha, bracha levatala, etc. Take a look. First of all, in 42, mashma mil sheinai, she'isa bracha she'in etzricha, the implication is that the bracha of ein etzricha is chomur yoseh misofik isa kiyum mitzvah b'lei bracha, of a sofik of being mekayim a mitzvah without a bracha. Okay, that's just an aside. Now, saying the name of Hashem levatala, kosev b'shalit shuvas Shevet Halevi or Vosna, sheish kamadargas. There are different levels. Aleph, hamoitzi shem shemayim levatala shaloi b'derech bracha. You just say Hashem's name, not a part of the bracha, just saying Hashem's name. That is the actual issur in the Torah. Oival asay min haTorah. That's number one. Number two, hamoitzio al yedei amiras bracha levatala. If you're saying the Shem Hashem unnecessarily, but as part of a bracha, l'shittas haRambam, oiva bekach al issa lav shelo sisum min haTorah. According to the Rambam, that is still an issa saying Hashem's name in a bracha, which is unnecessary, you're still over love in the Torah. Or the shittas hatoisvas urak isa drabana. Okay, and the cry is nasmachta. That's level 2. Level 3, hagorim bracha shenetzricha. You put yourself in a situation where you cause a bracha that's not necessary. Kagoin shayachal ipotiv bracha acheres. Also hefsek. He could have made one bracha and put on 2 tzitzis, 2 pairs for whatever reason, but you make a hefsek. And that necessitates a new bracha. Everyone agrees that saying Hashem's name is only an Issa Drabanan. And Daled, if you, for example, there's Ikra and Tafel. Mr. Shem will get to it eventually. But Ikra and Tafel, that if you make, for example, on a piece of filter fish, you make a shahakal. You don't make a bracha on the little carrot on the top, right? So on the top, it says that wouldn't be an issa of the you shouldn't do it, but that wouldn't be an issa of Mitzvah Shem Shemaim Latana. Okay, Chavtes. Let's just finish off. We'll do Yud Gimel Mitzvah Shem next week. Chavtes. We said the Mechaber says unless you had intention on all of them when you put them all on. It says the Mishnah Berurah, you got to have intention. And then we said having kamafsik by name, that's considered as a hefsek. It says the Mishnah Berurah with the sauce and mash with the Maria afilu hoyim nochim lefon of kol begodim should ever come for b'shas bracha. All the begodim are sitting there on the table or whatever just before when you get dressed. Afilu hachi tzarich latzim levarich. The Maria should rog the rak nilbish achas. While came b'stama oile abracha lekol. One bracha will cap all them to have a kenimlach because you decided against. Elen ken hoydai talim beferish. So too, if you're putting on the talis cotton and you make the bracha on mitzvahs tzitzis, like is on minhag, the lokach miyat hatalis hagadol, and straight away you start davening and you put on the talis gadol. If you have in mind that that's going to cover your talis as well, that would work. But mistama, your intention is only on your talis cotton, and therefore you would have to make a new bracha on your talis gadol. But if you're going to daven straight away, you're getting dressed, and you put in the talis cotton, you want to make a mitzvah tzitzis, then he says you've got to be careful not to make a bracha on the talis cotton if you intend to put the talis gadol on straight away, because mishum gram bracha shein etzricha, and therefore don't make a bracha on the talis cotton. And just when you put your talis gadol on, you make a bracha on that, and that covers the talis cotton. What if you wear a talis which you have not checked, like we discussed yesterday, and you find it's possible? So you didn't check it, you make the bracha and you put it on, and there, it's missing, it's missing strings or whatever it may be. Or you snap the tzitzis and you have to wear another talis. Then you've got to make a new bracha. In both of those cases, unless you said it's categoric, whatever I'm wearing now, the next hour, 2 hours, this is going to be covering, this bracha covers it, which we don't do. So if you make a bracha, you put on a talis, you realize it's possible, you've got to get another talis, you've got to make a new bracha. Now, in Pasha, this goes on the Mechab, on the Ramah. In Pasha Tarishan, if you take off the first one before you put on the second one, says the Ramah, says the Mishnah Berurah, Ha'achronim cholkim al zeh. The Achronim argue with the Ramah on this. So Sfir Lahu, if I'm putting on one talis, I take it off, I put on a second talis, that's not considered the hefsek, and the first bracha would actually count. It's different to what the Mechaber says in Yudalit. The Apshita have a hefsek, that's taking it off is considered the hefsek. The Hosim Loha Yedayt B'Shas Bracha Sheyav Shnev Yachsel Yebash Aval Hocha Yedayt B'Shas Bracha Alavish Zebegad Hasheni. Here, you intended to take the first one off and put the second one on, so therefore the first bracha will cover it, and therefore the Achronim argue with the Ramah. Let's just finish very quickly with one small line in the Dirshu note number 45. Aval Im Shahoy Zman Rav. If there was a big gap, of course, between taking off the first talis and then putting on the second talis, then that's more of a shayla. But if, according to the Achronim, we'll argue with the Ramah, if you take off the first talis and then you put on the second one, then you would not need to make a new bracha.